The applause for my sister's promotion had just started to die when a whistling scream began shredding its way out of my lungs. I am Kaya Vance, a conservator of rare manuscripts. My world is one of silent libraries and fragile parchment, not glittering galas. I was a ghost at that feast, surrounded by silk and strategic laughter. My sister Celine stood at the front of the private dining room, her smile a polished blade under the low light. She tilted toward the microphone, that flawless public grin never touching her eyes. "Here we go," she announced, a sigh of practiced weariness in her voice. "Kaya? Don't start a drama. It's wild mushroom consommé. There's no shellfish. Or do you need to sabotage my celebration too?" A wave of tense chuckles washed over the guests. Celine was performing, bathing in their focus. She didn't see the one person who was watching me. Magnus Croft, the conglomerate chairman who had just approved her promotion, was staring into my bowl with an expression of pure dread. Because Magnus Croft's son shares my lethal allergy to crustaceans. He knows anaphylaxis. He recognizes the moment a human airway begins to seal shut. Before I could comprehend the tightening in my chest, Magnus was in motion. He was tearing an EpiPen from his tailored jacket and charging toward me with a speed that defied his years. But let me rewind. To grasp why I was on the floor fighting for air, you need the full story. This was meant to be an exclusive supper for Celine's career leap, held in the vaulted private chamber of Le Sommet, a restaurant where the wait list is measured in seasons. The room swam in a honeyed gloom, every surface whispering of inherited wealth and fresh ambition. I am 27. In my field, I'm known as a historical archivist. Certain university circles call me the historian surgeon for my methodical precision and deep knowledge of preservation chemistry. My hands resurrect texts that have endured plagues and revolutions. The work demands a reverence for fragility. Celine, at 30, had just been named head of corporate communications at Croft Worldwide. She is all curated surface, designer silks, hair that obeys, a smile switched on like a lamp. Where I am deliberate, she is impulsive. Where I protect, she consumes. Our parents, Alaric and Vivian Vance, sat radiating pride at Celine's triumph. They adore discussing her influential career, her network, her visibility. My vocation? They dismiss it as morbid, as handling corpses of paper. I am the daughter who chose forgotten archives over corner offices. The fuse for my poisoning, yes, poisoning, was lit before the first course arrived. Celine had been waiting in the foyer when Magnus Croft entered. She tried to intercept him, to showcase a media portfolio. Instead, Magnus noticed me by the cloakroom, and his entire demeanor shifted to genuine curiosity. He bypassed Celine entirely, spending 20 minutes discussing alkaline reserve treatments in medieval vellum with me. He was captivated. He mentioned a cache of 17th-century merchant logs his firm had obtained and wondered if I might advise on their conservation. I watched Celine's face during that exchange. I saw her knuckles bleach white. I saw the inferno kindling behind her stare. This was her zenith. And I, the youngest sibling with a silent profession, had diverted the room's most powerful gaze. Her envy was a living, venomous thing. She aimed to disgrace me. To prove my allergy was a fiction for sympathy. She believed a trace of shellfish essence would merely cause a rash. She wanted me to unravel in front of everyone who counted. So, she laid her snare. I didn't witness the act, but I reconstructed it later. Celine had slipped away before the soup was served. She found Executive Chef Renaud in the kitchens. "Chef," she'd said, activating that megawatt charm. "A personal request. I've heard legends of your langoustine essence, the one in your signature bisque. It's supposed to be transcendental." Chef Renaud, proud of his creation, a slow reduction of crustacean roe and herbs into an aromatic amber oil, nodded. "I was hoping," Celine purred, "on my special night, I might taste something extraordinary. Could you grace the wild mushroom consommé with just a droplet of that essence? I imagine the pairing would be revolutionary." The chef was intrigued. It was an unorthodox blend, but he was an artist presented with an adventurous patron. "For you, Mademoiselle Vance," he agreed. He prepared a single bowl. What Chef Renaud could never have guessed was the malice coiled inside the request. He had no idea the destined bowl was a weapon. When the soup arrived, the server, Leo, placed them with care. Mine had delicate crimson gold swirls on the surface, glinting in the candlelight like liquid fire. Celine leaned close, her voice a counterfeit silk. I asked Chef Renaud to add a hint of smoked paprika oil and cedar mushroom to yours. I know rich broths overwhelm you. This will temper it. I am, by nature, vigilant. When your job is to interrogate every variable for artifacts that are 5 centuries old, you learn distrust. But that evening, I was disarmed. The setting, my sister's feigned concern, the overwhelming scent of truffle and forest floor, it all conspired against my instincts. The fungal aroma completely drowned any telltale scent from the sea. I suspected nothing. I lifted my spoon and tasted. It was profound. Umami. Deep. Layered. For 3 heartbeats, I believed Celine had offered an olive branch. Then my esophagus began to cinch shut. The reaction was a savage, immediate invasion. My throat clamped as if seized by an iron vice. My lips buzzed, then burned, then ballooned. I felt my tongue swelling, a fleshy barricade in my mouth. Angry scarlet welts erupted across my skin like a vile bloom. I tried to stand. The room pirouetted. I crashed from my chair onto the dense carpet, the impact stealing what little breath remained. I was drowning on dry land, clawing at my neck, emitting these awful whistling shrieks. And through the gathering darkness, I heard my sister's laugh. Not nervous. Triumphant. See. Celine's voice cut through the murmurs. She's eating mushrooms and performing an allergic crisis. This year's award for best performance goes to Kaya Vance. Uncertain tittering mixed with concern. Honestly, Kaya, Celine continued, stepping closer to where I convulsed. The act is over. You have the spotlight. Isn't that the point? To hijack my night. I tried to lock eyes with her, to telegraph that this was death, not theater. My vision was tunneling into black. This is the finale, I thought. Murdered by my blood at a dinner table while an audience wonders if it's comedy. But Magnus Croft was already on the ground beside me. Move, he roared, a sound that sliced the room. Call an ambulance. Now. To me, his voice dropped to a steady calm. You will be all right. I have you. He uncapped the EpiPen and drove it into my thigh. The adrenaline hit my bloodstream like a bolt of Arctic lightning. The stranglehold on my windpipe eased a fraction, just enough to sip a ragged, whistling breath. Oxygen. Now. Magnus balked as chaos erupted. Celine's expression transformed. The smug triumph evaporated. She watched Magnus kneel beside me, saw my distorted features, the used injector in his hand. She was beginning to understand her prank had terminal consequences. I didn't consider, she stammered, retreating a step. My mother rushed over, pallid. What's happening? Anaphylactic shock, Magnus stated, sharp as a scalpel. Someone introduced shellfish to her food. This is not a performance. Without epinephrine, she'd be deceased in minutes. My father looked from the bowl to Celine. Celine, what did you do? Nothing, she blurted. I requested mushroom soup. There was no shellfish. Before she could continue, Leo the waiter appeared. Miss Celine, shall I clear the course? You asked me to be ready to clear promptly. Not now. Celine hissed. That was when the epinephrine surged fully, forging a cold, crystalline clarity from the panic. With a strength that surprised even me, I seized Magnus Croft's wrist. I pointed a trembling finger at the lethal bowl. Then I made a swift, deliberate gesture, a closed fist over an open palm, the universal conservator's sign for hold, for preserve. He understood instantly. No one touches a thing, he commanded, his authority absolute. Security, seal this area. This is now a potential crime scene. The security team surged forward, cordoning the table. Mr. Croft, Celine laughed, a brittle sound. This is excessive. It's a tragic mistake. Nothing leaves, he interrupted, his voice glacial. Not a spoon, not the broth. It all stays for the authorities. My mother gripped Celine's arm. Tell me this was an accident. Tell me you didn't intend this. Celine opened her mouth. No sound emerged. She was sheet white. Lying on the floor, clinging to Magnus' wrist, a grim satisfaction cut through the terror and pain. My final conscious act had been to preserve the evidence. My first victory. The most insidious poison is often served in the name of care. The paramedics worked on me in the dining room. My stats were critical, oxygen saturation perilously low. We need transport now, one said. Risk of a secondary crash. Before they loaded me onto the gurney, Magnus turned to Celine. You claimed this was pure mushroom consommé? Celine wrung her hands. Yes. She exaggerates everything. It's likely a panic attack. A panic attack doesn't necessitate an EpiPen, Magnus stated flatly. Cease lying. Then, Chef Renaud burst in, distressed. Mademoiselle Celine. The waiter told me of the emergency. But I am confused. You personally requested the langoustine essence. You called it a novel experiment. A silent, crushing tension descended. Leo stepped forward. And Miss Celine signaled specifically for me to place that bowl before Miss Kaya. I recall clearly. You made eye contact and indicated her seat. The silence was absolute. I lay on the gurney, an oxygen mask fogging with each breath, and watched my family's facade disintegrate. My father looked shattered. Celine. Say they are mistaken. Celine's eyes darted. I only thought. She always makes such a spectacle of her allergy. I believed a tiny amount would show her it's psychosomatic. Just some hives. I never imagined this. You never imagined nearly killing your sister? Magnus' words were diamond-edged. Is that your defense? It was meant to be benign. Celine's voice scaled into shrillness. She constantly steals focus. This was my night, and she had to orchestrate another crisis. Be silent, my father said, a tone he'd never used with her. The golden child was tarnished. The paramedics began wheeling me out. As I passed my family, I held each gaze. My mother wept. My father looked aged. Celine was pure fear. Good, I thought. Be afraid. The ambulance doors opened to the night. Magnus stood nearby, phone in hand. I'm contacting the police. This is attempted manslaughter. She will be arrested tonight. Celine stumbled out after us, frantic. No. Please, Mr. Croft. It was an error. You admitted to deliberate contamination, he said, coldly logical. At a corporate function. You'll be in custody before dawn. Your career is ash. You face prison. My mother sobbed. My father calculated the scandal's blast radius. On the stretcher, throat still swollen, I rasped out a single sandpaper word. Wait. Everyone froze. I tugged the oxygen mask down. Don't call police yet. The paramedic tried to replace it. I resisted. I looked at Magnus, each word a struggle. An arrest tanks shareholder confidence. I won't harm your portfolio. I drew a searing breath. My attorney. We settle. Tomorrow. The relief on my family's faces was instantaneous. My mother wept gratitude. Oh, Kaya. Thank you. You're a good sister. My father sagged. We'll resolve this privately. And Celine. She looked at me with relief and a flicker of contempt. She believed mercy had won. She believed I was still the compliant little sister. Kaya, she cooed, moving closer. I know you're hurt. But we're family. We can heal this. With therapy. I raised my hand. My whisper was clear. My lawyer will provide the terms. Terms? She blinked. For the settlement, I clarified. You will pay. In full. Her face hardened. You'd sue me? Your own flesh. Would you prefer a state penitentiary? I asked simply. 8 years? Or a financial settlement? Choose. Magnus nodded, a glint of respect in his eyes. Have your counsel contact my office. We will provide full cooperation. Thank you, I whispered. Don't, he said. You saved yourself. Preserving that evidence was brilliant. I work with endangered history, I managed, as the mask was restored. I know how to protect it. As the doors sealed, I took a final look at my family on the curb. They saw mercy. They saw weakness. They were profoundly mistaken. I needed time. Time to construct a case of unassailable strength. Time for them to lower their shields. Celine imagined gentle negotiations. A token sum. A hushed apology. She had no conception of what was approaching. I spent days in the hospital. The damage was extensive, vocal cords scarred, heart strained, psyche scarred by nightmares of suffocation. But I didn't rest. I planned. My attorney, Ms. Vance, no relation, visited. She was formidable. Tell me everything, she instructed. I did. She smiled, a predator's grin. This is conclusive. She confessed before witnesses. We have the chef, the server, the physical evidence, and Magnus Croft. What is your goal? I want her dismantled, I said, my voice a ghost of itself. Her career, her finances, her standing. I want my parents to see their paragon for what she is. Legally. Irreversibly. The amount. 1,200,000, I stated. Enough to obliterate her, but not so high a mediator box. It covers all damages and is just low enough she'll think it's an escape. And the timeline? Mediation. 3 weeks from tonight. Fast, final. Consider it done. Over the following fortnight, Ms. Vance assembled a case of terrifying completeness. My family, believing I was healing, sent placating messages. I ignored them all. The mediation chamber was a tomb of polished oak and dread. We arrived early. Celine entered late, a power play to the last. She wore cream-colored cashmere, hair in a subdued knot, face painted with remorse. Our parents flanked her, my mother's eyes pleading, my father's jaw set for a compromise. Kaya, my mother began, her soothing voice setting my teeth on edge. We're so relieved you're recovering. I remained silent. Celine leaned in, tears welling on command. Kaya, you must believe how sorry I am. I only thought you'd get a mild rash. A scratchy throat. I wanted to tease you out of your shell. I never knew. She reached for my hand. I withdrew it. Stop. The word was a shot of ice. My mother jumped in. Sweetheart, she made a terrible error. But she didn't mean for this. Can't you? Let it go. Let it go. My voice trembled, not from weakness, but from a fury so cold it burned. No. I looked at each of them, Celine the performer, my mother the appeaser, my father the arbiter. The last filament of familial duty within me snapped. I reject this version of family, I said. I will not let it go. Ms. Vance opened her briefcase. The click echoed. Miss Celine Vance, she began, clinically. You are a communications director. You grasp narratives. Therefore, you comprehend the chasm between a jest and attempted manslaughter. She slid documents across the table. We have Chef Renault's sworn statement confirming your specific request for langoustine essence. We have Leo's affidavit confirming you directed the contaminated bowl to your sister. We have toxicology reports. We have your search history, shellfish allergy threshold, masking seafood flavor, anaphylaxis duration. Each piece of evidence was a nail. This was premeditated, Ms. Vance continued. The district attorney is prepared to charge aggravated assault. You are facing 8 to 10 years in state prison. My parents paled. Celine shook her head wildly. No, that's not. I didn't. Alternatively, Ms. Vance's tone shifted a degree. My client will forego criminal prosecution for a civil settlement. Full compensation. Medical. Psychological. Punitive. My father found his voice. The figure? Ms. Vance looked to me. I nodded. $1,200,000. Celine's composure exploded. That's impossible. I don't have. You own a loft valued at $650, Ms. Vance recited. You have a vehicle, a portfolio, jewelry. Your parents have equity, retirement funds. The alternative is incarceration, a felony record, and a civil judgment that will haunt you into bankruptcy. This settlement includes an NDA. You keep your freedom and the remnants of your reputation. Forgiveness is not owed to those who mistake your life for a stage. Celine stared at me, truly seeing me for the first time. The little sister was gone. In her place was an archivist who knew how to erase toxins. They signed. I watched Celine's hand shake as she committed to financial ruin. I watched my parents sign as guarantors, pledging their security for their favorite child's liberty. When it was done, Celine looked at me, hollow. "I'm your sister." "No," I said, standing. "You were someone who tried to murder me. They are not the same." I walked out into the sun. Behind me, I heard my mother weeping, my father cursing my name. I didn't glance back. The seasons turned. Gossip, via a former contact, reached me. Celine was let go from Croft worldwide. Restructuring, the release said. Everyone knew the truth. The whispers were relentless, unhinged. A liability. The one who poisoned her sister. She sold the loft at a loss. The jewelry vanished. The car was repossessed. My parents drained their pension and took a reverse mortgage. I heard, later, of her attempt to rebound. A charity gala. An older, wealthy widower. She performed perfectly for a season. Then he investigated. He discovered the truth. He had her belongings left in the lobby. The locks were changed. The last I learned, Celine works in a call center in an industrial park. Hourly wage. Fluorescent lights. A script. I sometimes wonder if she recalls the consommé. If she lies awake in a rented room, replaying her choice. I hope she does. 1 year later, I stood in my archive. My archive. The term still felt wondrous. A renovated industrial space, all high windows and steel beams. The scent of old paper and neutral pH adhesive hung in the air. Shelves held volumes in various states of resurrection. This was Vance archival restoration. The settlement seed, minus legal fees, medical costs, therapy, had leased this space, bought equipment, hired 2 assistant conservators. Surviving an assassination, it turns out, grants a certain notoriety. The archivist who lived. Magnus Croft delivered his trust, and with it, a contract to conserve the entire Croft family archival collection. It provided the foundation, the credibility. Now, my firm is valued in the millions. My assistants work in the back, their quiet industry a peaceful melody. I built this. Not with legacy, but with reparation for a nearly successful murder. Every shelf, every restored folio, is a testament to alchemy, turning poison into purpose. My phone chimed. A text from Ms. Vance. Final transfer received. Matter closed. The last payment. Celine's debt, paid by my parents, was complete. I felt quiet. I looked out the window. Somewhere, Celine was in a cubicle. My parents were in their leveraged house, resenting me. Their narrative no longer touched me. I had emigrated from their country. I turned back to my work table. A 15th-century psalter awaited, its pages foxed and fragile, yet the illuminated letters still glimmered with stubborn gold. This is my life now. I salvage what is precious. I neutralize corrosive agents, whether in parchment or in bloodlines. I sat, donned my gloves, selected my tools. The afternoon light fell in wide, generous plains, illuminating the dust of history and hope. My existence is whole, forged in the furnace of betrayal. And for the first time in 27 years, I am irrevocably home. If you understand the power of preserving what matters, please support this channel. Like this video and subscribe to Winds of Thought for more stories about resilience and the quiet strength